Hello everyone. GM. Welcome to Web3 Magic Podcast. Here I talk with builders of some of the most interesting projects across Web3 space. Interesting by the use case, not by the price of a token. So let's warm up with music and let's jump into today's episode. Hello everyone, so we're back. I am here with Johannes from the project called Nerif. I keep butchering the name to Nefrit all the time, but hopefully, it won't happen during today's talk. Hi Johannes, how are you?
Hi Peter, thank you so much. I'm good. We're enjoying fall in Switzerland. It's hard one to pronounce. Nerif.
Nerif. It's not hard. It's just, I've read a book a long time ago which I loved, and it was about some Nefrits.
Okay. So you like Egyptian history?
I did. I used to like it. Yeah. So I think the typical start, which I like to do, is basically ask the guests about how they got to crypto, and then how the idea of their current project came about. And so why don't you start? How did you actually ended up in Crypto Valley, and how did you get to crypto?
That's been a while now. I've been professional in crypto since I think 2017.
Okay. OG.
So no, just like after that first wave. Basically after kind of the whole hype happened. But it actually started even earlier. So I was studying in South Africa with my bachelor's, and in Stellenbosch we had this one professor who was teaching about economic development in sub-Saharan Africa, and he very early. That was in 2014. Right? That was really early on. He had this project, this idea of you have a lot of people from Zimbabwe living in South Africa and basically sending money back home. But Zimbabwe doesn't really have, or back then, I'm not sure how it is today, a proper banking system. So they would literally give people cash to the taxi driver and ask the taxi driver if they could take it over the border. And so the kind of the cost of money transfer was like 20 to 30%. And they came up with this idea of like, let's use blockchain to do remittance payments.
Wow.
So that's the first time I really got in touch with blockchain. Then went back home to Switzerland and started this venture called Co-Found Me, which was all about helping startups to kind of become startups. So founders funding their co-founders, and we didn't make money. So we thought about, hey, how can we monetize this whole thing? And one of the problems or challenges we had was that early stage startups, which are our main, you could say, client base, they don't really have money. And at the same time, we had a lot of VCs and stuff scouting on the platform. So we came up with this idea of, well, let's do seed rounds kind of on the platform. Let's do, tokenize. That was then 2016, right? That was kind of this first wave of the ICO hype.
ICO.
Let's enable startups to do the seed rounds on chain. Now the problem was that there was no stablecoins, there was no regulation in place, there was no infrastructure, so that kind of remained a theoretical concept. But that triggered my interest, really, especially my technical interest, which then led to me joining Swisscom Blockchain, which was back then the consulting arm of the Swiss National Telco, focusing on blockchain and really going into that professionally as well. So that's how I triggered it, and then went basically from there, and then suddenly ICO became a bad word, and we could do less and less, and then it was more and more about permissioned blockchains, mainly Hyperledger, and then once again that sometime later I then joined forces with a sort of tremendous gentleman who had just founded this company called L1 Digital, which turned now into one of the largest allocators, investors in digital assets in Europe.
Wow.
So I spent 3.5 years there, and then basically wanted to go back into building and being more technical. So I actually was introduced to this new idea of Nerif by a former colleague adds risk on blockchain. So kind of jumped on that to become a co-founder of Nerif and have this idea of making Web3 success. So really what Nerif is all about here is we believe that the user experience is really, really bad in Web3 at the moment, and we want to change that, and we build software to change that.
I see. Okay, so basically Nerif is focusing on user experience in Web3. Do I get it right?
Yeah, that's kind of in a vision sense. If you break it down a bit more, it's very simple things. It's we orchestrate the apps. So if you're building your application, you could think about the app the following. You have your blockchain, and then on top of that, you have a set of smart contracts. And on top of those smart contracts, you have a user interface. Mm-hmm. That's the theory, right? Now, in practice, if you're building this, you need to build a lot of surrounding parts. You need to build notification systems. You need to build, cron jobs for maintenance tasks. You need to build, if you want to do cross interactions, maintenance tasks. And all that stuff is typically built in a centralized fashion or somewhat centralized fashion. Mm-hmm. And is very complex to build, but even more complex to maintain and very expensive. So right. what we do now is we just give you a tool or a set of tools as a developer where you can build that very easily, and you don't have to worry about maintenance, and more importantly also don't have to worry about counterparty risk because it's running decentralized on its own.
Okay, and you do maintenance for those tools, or who?
Well, instead of having to run a server where you have to run a node, where you have to run an indexer, which you have to maintain. Yep. Basically, our network does that for you. So you don't have to worry about keeping things updated and maintaining them. It's just kind of working out of the box.
I see. Sounds cool. So your ideal client or typical client would be a small team with an idea to build something on blockchain?
Builders. Yeah.
Builders. Okay.
Builders, exactly.
Got it. It doesn't really sound like user experience, though. So it's more like user experience for builders.
Well, it's, like I have a little card here. It says, make Web3 Devex suck a bit less.
All right. Now
so you could say it's about developer experience, but we believe that actually by making the developer experience, so it's good. Step back, right? We believe the core problem of why Web3 doesn't really have more user adoption is because the user experience is bad.
Yeah.
The reason why the user experience is bad, or one of the reasons we believe, is because it's actually very cumbersome and hard to build user experience. Mm-hmm. So by giving developers tools, right, to build better processes, to build better, for example, notifications is like the easiest one to understand always here. Yep. You give them tools to build better UX.
Right. Okay.
Right. So the end goal is UX. However, we basically built the foundation to enable developers to build good UX.
Okay, so basically you are trying to give them more time to focus on UX. Doesn't mean they're going to focus on that.
We hope so. We very much hope so, because we have this idea of how do we make onboard the next billion users on the Web3, right? And without UX, that's not going to happen. So totally. Basically that goes out to every developer here. Please, if you have more time because your application or developer stack is less complex, please use it to focus on UX and not on, I don't know, video games or something.
I sign up for this. It's +1. Please do it because it is cumbersome in many ways. And I think even for people who kind of spend a lot of time in the space, it still feels cumbersome anyway. Mm-hmm. And I wish there's going to be something which is going to be like one wallet for them all. Or
we'll get there. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. It's just that I may lose a lot of wallets along the way because I just can't remember where they are. And when you change computers, a lot of stuff changes. Mm-hmm. Cool. So how long have you been running Nerif with your co-founder?
So we formally launched, and I joined in February this year. So a bit more than half a year. There was some, technical ideas from my co-founder before that, but from my side, basically, and going full steam ahead since February this year. So going half a year, we've come a long way since then. I'm super excited. We launched our mainnet alpha. We've built some tremendous partnerships with different, layer twos and also big players in the market, and are now kind of in this phase. And you'll actually hear more about that very soon from our side. I'm not sure when you're going to publish this, but
this is coming out probably like mid-November.
Cool. Then basically that will be in full swing, which you will hear about more, like what Nerif is doing and how people are building on Nerif.
Awesome. Okay. Looking forward to that. Okay, so it's probably not the right time right now to give shout out to some projects building on Nerif, or is it?
let's wait for that. Let's do a follow up on mid-December, and then I can give you really cool updates on that.
All right, no problem. Perfect. So one of the topics when we connected in ETH Milan, one of the topics we wanted to talk about was like, how is the ecosystem growing in, the crypto valley in Switzerland?
The infamous crypto valley.
Infamous crypto valley. So maybe you can just, for everybody else, like, how did you end up in crypto valley? I assume you haven't been born there.
That's my parents' fault.
That
is my parents' fault. I'm one of those 5 people who actually grew up in Zug. So my story goes, I was born here. I grew up in Zug. Actually, I went into school to the former mayor of Zug, Dolphy Müller. He was my teacher in high school.
So VIP connections. Nice.
But then, Zug is a small place. The ones who haven't been, it's a really tiny place. So when you're like an 18-year-old young person, you just want to move out. So I moved out. I was studying in Senegal, and then I was, living a bit all around the world. And then basically met my wife in Chile. And when our son was born, we decided to move back to Switzerland. So I kind of came back here. So I maybe have a bit of a kind of abstract view on that whole crypto valley thing, just as a person who's been there for his own life.
Well, I think you have probably a good view because you know it inside out, but you've been out also. So,
exactly.
You can definitely say what's good and what's bad.
So Zug is and always has been, right? This is not something where the crypto valley has brought to Zug. It's the place of money in a sense. What Zug is all about is that you have a government which is very welcoming on kind of trying new concepts, new ideas, and new businesses. We've shown that in the 70s with Margaret's company, which actually the successor is being Glencore, which basically brought spot trading to Zug. So you have the whole commodity trading, which is in a sense comparable to crypto in that it's moving big amounts of money without having to need in a physical space, like in the place where you actually do the trading.
Right.
And that brought kind of really this surrounding industry here, lawyers, and I think that combination kind of created the reason why the crypto valley is what it is, right? In combination with the government, which is, in a sense, used to kind of deal with this kind of special industries. Now, I have a great group of people here. There's a lot of really cool people here working. Now, if you're, visiting Zug, you will not find hordes of developers and builders in cafes building, right?
No.
That is not the place where you find that.
Okay.
You will find people like me, right? We have, for example, this crypto dads group, right? Where it's like a bit older. You have a bunch of founders. It's just people who actually physically are here are either Swiss, they are kind of more on the service provider level, or they are founders or like executive level, foundation, president, CEOs, which kind of physically need to be here as well,
right.
because it's quite expensive to live here in a sense. It is quite boring as a young person. It's great for a family, right? It's a really, really good place to be if you have kids. But as a single, just stereotyping here, single male between 25 and 35, yeah, go somewhere else.
That was a brutal stereotype. Okay, nice one. So it was going to be my question. Is like, is it really international or is it like that?
It is very international. It is I think it took us like 35% foreign residents.
That's pretty deep.
And yeah, it is extremely international. But that is, it's a different type of international, right? Sure. I tell everyone that if you have family, come here. Like it's a great place. If you can afford to live here, it's a great place to be. But if you're young and you want some adventure, there's better places to go.
Totally get it. Being somewhere else also around the world, would you, and not if you wouldn't be Swiss, would it be the place which you would choose to live and work in the crypto space, or would it be some other places in, I don't know, US, Asia, wherever you
with a family and the financial means? Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Right. That is the thing, right? It's those 2 points. Zug is difficult because it's hard to find a nice place to live, right? Like a house or a flat or something. But if you have that, and you're looking for that more kind of quiet life, it is tremendous. On my own, I would probably, as a single developer, or a single founder, I would probably not be here. I'd probably be, I'm a big fan of Cape Town. I'm a big fan of Valencia as well in Spain. I would be a bit somewhere where it's a bit warmer and a bit more movement, maybe.
Okay, got you. So basically what you are saying is it's good if you have family and you can afford to live there, or if you just want to come and talk to people who have money.
Yeah, well, you can put it this
way. All right. So I can deduce from that there are some people in Crypto Valley who are actually developing stuff, but it's not that many of them.
It's not that many of them number-wise, right?
Number-wise, yeah.
But impact-wise, there's probably actually quite a bit of, because you as I said, right? Who would find here? You'd find the founders here, like, just like I'm at my office here, and in the, let's say, the 200-meter radius around my office, there is probably like, just off the back of my hand, we have Safe here. On the other side, we have the Web3 Foundation very close. We have the Ethereum Foundation. Well, I don't have any people here, but the office is directly here. We have Streamer extremely close. We have Polymech extremely close. It's like a lot of cool projects which are physically, they have physical offices here as well.
Right.
But it's, it's not 1,000 in the 1,000.
Okay, so I used to live in, Silicon Valley, so typically looking for something like, so you basically just walk into a cafe and you bump into everybody from the newspaper.
Oh, you do that. But the thing is, well, question for you, what do you think? How many people are living in Zug?
20,000-30,000?
Yeah, exactly. It's a small town.
Right.
So yes, you actually walk. We have to be careful when you go over lunch, right? Because the chances are the person next to you is also working in the space. But it's just because it's not. There's only 25,000 people living here, so there's actually not that many people. So if you have a couple of hundred people working in one thing, that's already.
Right. That's true. Okay. Well, I'll stop drilling you on the Crypto Valley. I'll come and check it out myself.
Very welcome. Everyone, come visit us here in Zug. It's nice. It's really nice, and it would be nice to have a bit more kind of builders and stuff here, and not just suits, as I call them.
Right. Okay. So I wanted to pick a little bit of your brain because we had a chance to chat over dinner about a lot of things and then different topics. And it seemed to me that you have very broad overview of what's happening in crypto space, especially in Europe, I would say. So what are some projects which you find exciting? And they don't have to be based in Crypto Valley, just in the crypto space, which you find exciting, now? I mean, it's like,
Oh, so I have a bit of a penchant for kind of the non-financial use cases, right? So what you have,
love
you have
it.
DeFi, right? You have DeFi. DeFi is super important, but then I ask the question: do we need another, perp DEX?
Right.
Really? Do we
Totally
need
agree.
another protocol to leverage stuff?
Yeah, totally agree.
But then, like stuff, for example, I'm super excited about Lens because what excites me about it is that if you look at kind of Web2 things, actually, from a data perspective, things like Wikipedia, Reddit, and Facebook are the same thing. Broken down just on a data thing. It's a person who's writing some kind of, content in some form. And there is a collaborative element to it.
Right.
On a very abstract level, right? That means if you have like an infrastructure such as Lens, which basically incorporates, I think Lens is in the end nothing else. It's a place where I can create content. I can save that content. It's visible that I created it. There's a collaborative function to it, right? You can comment on it or follow or however you want to then call it. And then it's all about the user interface. With that same data structure, data layer, you can build different applications. And then you can start creating new things, kind of interacting, right, and connecting them and basically having a mix between, let's say, Reddit and Wikipedia. And on top of that, because you have this shared data layer, the blockchain, you can start connecting things. You can start, for example, doing a credential that you actually have. You don't have a different user account in Wikipedia and Twitter anymore. It's the same wallet, right?
Right.
And then you can connect it with something like, okay, this is an expert in I don't know what. So this person has more credibility on a certain topic on any of those platforms. Or you have, and what comes on top of that is what basically blockchain brings, apart from composability and this shared data layer, is the ability to natively monetize it in some way, right? However that might look like. So you can really start building really, really cool applications on top of that. So that's just like one example. Social, it's in a sense decentralized social media. I try to avoid the term what's it called?
Socialify.
Exactly. I'm trying to avoid the term socialify because that puts too much emphasis on the fi aspect of it, right? Which is interesting, but it's not the only one.
I think socialify in the current, setups, it's mostly great Ponzi scheme, which, people love because there's nothing else to do. Honestly, so at least, it's probably not a day that somebody doesn't DM me or ping me somewhere on Twitter that they bought my keys somewhere. It's like whether it's, friends or
exactly. And Sapper just came out with that apparently. Just a friend texted me just before.
Or on the blockchain, like Bitcoin alternatives of those. It's like I like experimenting, but I'm also like kind of bored with different things.
Exactly, but that's just like this layer which taking out the fire of it and seeing what else you can do with that, and that is really, really exciting to me.
Okay,
just one example. Another example might be music, right? Like the whole IP discussion, where music is a bit special in that sense because we're all used to not, in art you buy art, right? And then you have it. With music, we're all used to pay rent. You pay a monthly fee to Spotify, right? Or you basically pay every time you consume it. You don't just pay it once, but like you pay per consumption.
I'm old enough to remember records and cassettes. One time.
But that's a different story, right? Like the last 20 years changed that.
Yeah, sure.
In one sense or the other, and that is also like something where the whole rights usage and rights management is extremely inefficient and geared towards kind of the big players, and that's where also it might be an equalizer where the technology really, really might have a big impact. There's a lot of cool projects.
Do you have any favorite projects where you go to check music on chain?
Well, the biggest one being Audius. I've
Sure.
been an early supporter of Audius. I think they're a bit in a rut at the moment. The problem you have is the distribution of like the curve, who listens to what music, which is extremely kind of steep.
Yeah.
And you have kind of a very long tail, but a high concentration at like the pop stars, right? And that's why in a sense, you need to somehow work with the incumbents in the industry to actually make it work. Because if you then just build a new platform, and you might have a lot of kind of independent artists, but those artists have an incentive to be on something like Spotify, because Spotify, what it gives you is exposure.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of those people who listen to the Metallicas and the Britney Spears of the world, they would then also find like newer bands on Spotify. But if you're not on the same platform as those big stars,
nothing happens.
The algorithm doesn't work. So this is like just something which is close to my heart personally. There's a lot of approaches. This is a very long process because it's a very conservative industry. But I think there's tremendous potential in here also to kind of.
I was just looking through some music projects on chain this morning actually, because I was trying to figure out. So the podcast is basically a continuation of the one which I did about NFTs, and I wanted to use it to educate my friends on different sides of the pond, you could say. So my NFT friends about other things, not just NFTs, and my technology friends who hate crypto and blockchain about the use cases which actually make sense. And I got asked a lot by NFT friends about like, where is the Web3 part of this, because you run it on Substack and you talk about interesting projects, but there's nothing to mint. And I'm like, yeah, well, so I am creating an art for every episode because that's what's kind of fun. And I was looking on the places where you could kind of give anyone who is in that space, who wants to mint something all the time, like, is there a chance to have like nice art minted together with the episode? Because most of the platforms do one or the other. It's like you don't really get the nice art, or you really don't get the episode. Anyway, so this total digress. Sorry about that.
But I think that puts it very nicely. We're not there yet, right? There's a lot of things to build. There's a lot of cool ideas. Just yesterday, I had drinks with a couple of friends, right? With like the crypto dads actually, and there was this big topic of NFT, NFT ticketing, right? Yeah. Where it is in a sense a no-brainer technically, but there is no good platform still, which just makes it work, where you don't have to sign up with your wallet and go into Discord and approve your wallet, and then with that Discord you have to basically claim a link, and then with that link you have to go to a browser, but it doesn't work on mobile because MetaMask doesn't properly work on mobile, so you have to do it on desktop.
Yeah, no, that's true.
But this is that's it gets back to this thing of make Web3 subclass, or like let's make great UX. This is UX. That's for me. This is UX. Like making those processes, simplifying those processes, combining them, and I think there's a lot of really smart people working in the space. As it's very fragmented, but like we're starting to see kind of more standards and just kind of stuff merging. And I'm extremely positive that this will be one of, if not the kind of changing thing, that having great UX, having at least UX which is at least as good as what we were used to in Web 2, which has been working for 20 years, right? 20 years ago, the Web 2 UX was also really bad. You're a bit older than I am, so you probably remember that a bit better than I do. But we've come a long way there. Well, I remember like how big of a change, like game changer React, for example, is React.js, right? Which just allows you to do one single page applications, which are interactive, which are frictionless in a sense, and you don't have click, wait until the page loads, click, wait until the page loads.
Yeah, agreed. Cool. Okay. We are approaching about half an hour. So anything you would like to point out at the end, like how can listeners be useful for you, what they should go and check? I will include anything you want in the show notes, of course, or just give a shout out to anybody and any project you wish.
Maybe two things. If you're a builder, if you're a developer, check out what we built with Nerif. I'll send Peter a link where you can skip the waitlist, which we have.
Nice.
If you are a non-developer and basically interested in crypto, think about what is the investment case, but then think about what kind of technology change, because this is a really, really big difference. I think that's talking to, in a sense, people who are not kind of building deep in this space. I think that's really the most important thing I always say is that Web3 is not about price go up. Tokens are just an application of it. It's about what can technology be used for to build groundbreaking and game-changing things. Those are the two things. Oh yeah, also, if you like tacos and are a builder, we're running those events all around the world. So I will also send you the link.
All right. Are you going to be in Istanbul in November?
I will be in Istanbul, yes.
Okay.
Now, this is the question if you're basically publishing this before Istanbul or after Istanbul.
Well, I can definitely include it in the sound bites. Even if the whole episode is not going to be out, I can definitely put it in
so if you're in Istanbul,
teasers.
Then you should definitely join us for tacos in Istanbul.
Okay.
And you will see that in the link, which are going to be in the show notes.
I can definitely.
Thank you so much
for the tacos.
For having me, Peter.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for making the time. I just want to say I want to vouch for the tacos. They were awesome in Milan. I'm sure they are going to be very cool in Istanbul as well.
I hope the same.
Thanks, Johannes.
Great. Hey, take care.
Cool. Let me just... And that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you want to connect with my guest, or if you're interested in some of the points that were discussed today, just check the show notes for links. And don't forget to subscribe for future episodes. Also, if you are compelled, please leave a review. It helps others to find the podcast, and you can surely share it with your friends to save them the trouble of discovery process. I definitely hope you would do that for me. One more thing, from January 2024, there is an option for the interested collectors to mint the episode or just the episode's art, which is always uniquely created by me for each guest and project. So go check the show notes to find out more. Until next time, keep it colorful and stay positive, friends. Ciao.